back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. It's a snack pack, everyone. It's Gerald Glasser. Coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, as well, of course, Inside Sports Fantasy Football will be getting back into the swing of things when the NFL season starts to come around right here on Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Of course, Joe Soros here. You got to go ahead and support what he's doing today at Simblades with the Y.com. And of course, the board that he frequents quite often, LakersBall.com. Also, as well, of course, our good friends John Costa at Lakers Corner and Clutch Talk. Draft season is here. Go ahead and support our good friend Mr. Stone Hansen at report_court. Actually, he retweeted out somebody's list, and they had Zach Edey at their number one spot. And I was just like, okay, all right, there you go. But also as well, of course, our good friends, Empire Jeff TV, Lakers in 5, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, also as well, the John McCallion channel. Our good friends, the Lakerholics crew, go ahead and catch their show. There was a nice little tit for tat between Laker Tom and Jamie Sweet. And go ahead and check that out. And if you don't want to check out the whole thing, I'll, the next couple of days, put up maybe just that little bit of an argument with them and on its own little video. But wait and see. You never know what's going to happen right here at the Lakers Fast Break. But please, could keep on finding out what we're doing each and every day, as long as you're subscribing, following, liking, and checking us out always right here at the Lakers Fast Break. And one last thing to all you dads out there, happy Father's Day from all of us here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. It is Gerald Glasser. Thanks so much again for watching and listening. Truly appreciate it, along with Mr. Joe Soro himself. Joe, when I told him I wanted to do a show, because we were going to do a scheduled show with Legend 350, but unfortunately things didn't materialize with the way we wanted to, so we had to reschedule. So I still said to Joe, I want to do a show later on today. He said, what's the topic? And you know what? I was kind of at a loss because, the generic JJ Redick's talk, I think he and I just recycling all the stuff that we always say and do in regards to that. So I'm like thinking to myself while I'm driving, what am I going to do? So I'm waiting in line to go ahead and get a milkshake for Father's Day because my kids are treat me on some ice cream. And I thought I'd pop in Laker Tom's tweets, because Laker Tom at Laker Tom on Twitter is always saying something controversial that makes us laugh and always gives us something to talk about. His latest thing was about 10 hours ago when he tweeted, the Los Angeles Lakers portfolio of available trading chips is their best in years, which includes their 2024, 2029, and 2031 first-round draft picks. They can also swap their 26, 28, and 30 first-round draft picks, and they have a whole whopping 5 second-round draft picks to offer for potential trade partners. So that got me thinking while I'm waiting in the Baskin-Robbins line, which used to be 31 flavors, which is no longer 31 flavors, so they have to go to Baskin-Robbins. I asked myself, is that really the best haul of trading chips that you've got? And what exactly can that get? So I thought I'd bring my good friend on, Joe, today to hear his thoughts on what that can really get. Realistically, what can fans look forward to? So I bring it up, Joe, to you, my friend, first off. And while I finish the artwork on the JPEG and all that, I ask you, exactly, is this a good haul for the Lakers? Once, of course, July 1st hits and those first-round draft picks roll in, is that a great haul for the Lakers? And, what exactly can it get?
Well, when you say haul, are you talking about 3 firsts, Rui, Austin for Donovan Mitchell?
I'm just saying anything. Just saying the chips first. Let's saying whatever available draft chips. You want to include the players that are available out there with the Lakers right now that you would put in a trade? Absolutely. Let's include them too. You want to include the sign and trade for D'Angelo Russell? We can include that as well. But realistically, Joe, the other teams as well, there are many others in the NBA that have a lot of assets too. So is this first and foremost a decent, good, or really, really good haul of trading chips the Lakers have in their arsenal come July the 1st?
Depends on if the team that they're working with has a contract that they want to get rid of. There are teams like Portland, there are teams like Chicago that have players that are getting grossly overpaid that still have some talent that the Lakers could use, and they might not have to give up as much draft capital to get those guys, but they will need some players to throw into that to match numbers on those contracts. We've discussed options, but we didn't go into too much detail because we don't really have a lot of confidence in Rob and management to make something happen.
Not at all. That's, I think, the problem. When you go to, Joe and I, let's say we have all these great chips to bargain. Let's say Joe and I, the video game that you're talking about, that you're part of, that you're helping to finance, and you're going into Microsoft to negotiate with them or Sony or Nintendo and on an exclusive deal, and you're going in there and you have all these great things to work out with them, that these things that you can promise them, these things that you can give to them and the gaming community. But who is the person selling this to Nintendo, Sony, Xbox? That's what I would equate it to. Who is the guy that's actually the mouthpiece and the guy that's trying to sell these great assets that you have into getting it something much more attainable and manageable, and hopefully a good product, an even better product going forward? So I think that's what it comes down to. You can have a lot of assets, Joe, but who is the person that's actually pitching these assets, and will they make the right decision once they obtain all these assets come July 1st? That is the problem I think you and I have the most.
Yeah, the assets will depend on the value of the product. The value of the product will be determined when an audience says, we want this product. And the benefit of the process the last 5 years has been there isn't anyone that's had to, there's no one that's had to tell us how things should be done. There was a one-stop shop, one decision maker in charge, even with all the investors involved. There are a handful of investors involved, and it's a rarity too, by the way. It's rare that this happens. We don't have any say in the development of the game. We have to put trust in those who know what they're doing, and everyone knows there was a risk. And how to pitch it to a Sony, to a Microsoft, to a Nintendo, we may not have to pitch it because we are an independent, because we've actually finished the game and are just cleaning up the latter stages of
polishing it.
Polishing it. That's the word. Yeah, yes,
that's
polishing it up. The game will come out, and the game has traction. We don't know how much yet, but we've gotten good responses in the last few years. A lot of eyes on it online, enough to give an independent game, a good feeling on what might come. It's just like anything else. I mean, when George Lucas produced Star Wars, the first one, he went to Hawaii after it finally got released, and he said, whatever happens to it happens. And we all saw what happened there. Movies, video games, anything entertainment is always going to be based off of, well, let's see what happens once it's out. We tried to do mainstream stuff. Unfortunately, this last couple weekends ago, the ticket was too high.
Actually, that's a ongoing. What you told me came out to the press. Esquire did a story on that about how it was $250,000 for, I think, a minute, 350 for 90 seconds, and then 500 for a full two minutes to independent developers. That is absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, the budgets aren't even that much for developing the game, let alone marketing it.
Yeah.
So should corrupt get traction from an audience, and an independent can sell 20,000 units and all of a sudden light up the room a little bit. When I say lighting up the room, Sony and Microsoft will now be alerted. Our overall expenditure is nowhere near a AAA game, even though there are some have said that this does look AAA to some. And they haven't even seen the polished part yet. The voiceovers, the cleaning up in general. We will see these in a month. You will see a trailer before then. And this will be one of those things where will Sony come in, let's say, in the last minute and say, look, guys, I think we think we want to partner up. Let's do this, this, and that. We hold off for about a month and then release because you want to put in that Sony marker on there. Those are all options. Those are all negotiations actually going on right now. But for me, I'm only looking for the finished product so it can go out. Let the audience decide if this is good or not. Now, I've been told that new IP like this with the visuals that they have and the fact that the gameplay is great, I don't know how it doesn't work. I don't know how it doesn't resonate, especially right now with what's going on, especially with a lot of these big companies not really having a lot of games available. So we might be hitting it at the right time. And how you sell that is you sell it with the product. You sell correlate that with the Lakers, right? In years past, you correlated with, well, Jerry West is going to go in here and slam dunk this. And then there was a residual effect with Mitch Kupchak. Mitch Kupchak learned under Jerry West. He's not Jerry West, but he had a darn good career being a good GM. And there's that, we're the Lakers, you should come here. Let's make it happen. We're going to win championships, and they do. You're going to get paid, and you do. So what more do you want from an organization? You're going to get paid top dollar, even when your days are numbered, and you're going to win championships. What great player has ever come to LA and did not want a championship? The answer is zero. Your definition of great player, I think you all know what I mean by great player. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Paul Gasol, Kobe Bryant, Shaq, Kareem, Magic, Worthy, Jerry West, Will Chamberlain. So it's a weird area to be in, but it's not, because we don't have the baggage a normal triple or double A game have. We didn't spend so much money that we have to gouge our audience. That's where I believe we're going to have an advantage. And then we'll be able to dictate terms from there. And in the entertainment business, I'm going to use an example of James Cameron. James Cameron wrote Terminator. Now, in order to get it produced, he had to sell the rights to it. Now, I'm not saying that's what we're going to do in the end, but I'm going to kind of give you all an idea of how James Cameron put his footprint in this. And then it's going to correlate again to the Laker situation a little bit. James Cameron writes the Terminator, sells it, and then is able to produce it, right? He ends up making a sleeper hit in 1984, relative unknown but known Arnold Schwarzenegger, and of course Linda Hamilton and Michael Biehn end up become movie stars, right?
Yeah.
Then 7 years later, arguably the greatest action movie ever made. Arguably, I'm not saying it is. Arguably the greatest action movie. That's with him doing Aliens. That's with him doing The Abyss. and kind of cements himself as the director of his time. And then 5 years later, he pretty much blows the ship out of the water, right? So to speak. He did something in that during that time with Titanic that explains why James Cameron has the freedom he does with Avatar right now. Gerald, do you know that he didn't get paid for Titanic?
Yeah, actually, I heard that.
Okay, you know why he didn't get paid?
No.
Because he didn't fulfill what he said he could do. It was a decision by him. He said, I couldn't get it at this budget, therefore you don't owe me $50 million.
Contractually, they're put on the line for Joe, and
he did something, and again, this is something for all you out there that if you're ever in a negotiation, if you're ever going back and forth with whatever entity you're working with, whether you're the boss, whether you're the employee, whatever, know and feel the room. Something that the Lakers have absolutely no idea about, right? No idea. No idea what the hell that room is. No idea what's outside that room either. So he gauges the room. I'm just telling you what likely happened here, folks. I don't know for sure it is, but I do know that because he said it on the Howard Stern show. He did not take any money in the 3 years he worked on the Titanic movie. So imagine going to a studio head and saying, you don't owe me $50 million because I said I was going to do for this budget. They had to go to another studio to get it finished. Well, I screwed up, guys. So what? You know how much cred that builds you in that industry? It's kind of like taking care of a GM in the NBA. Taking care of a GM who calls you and says, hey, man, I really need to get rid of this contract. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my job. What can I do? What can you do to help me? Oh, don't worry. We're under the cap. We're whatever. We'll take them on. We can actually kind of use them. Now, you think that GM, whether he stays there or goes somewhere else, you don't think that guy's going to help you later? What have these guys done to help people? Have you noticed that almost every GM has like something negative to talk about with Rob Pelinka? Now, I used to think that was an agency thing. I thought because he was an agent. Maybe I was just naive in thinking that. Do you go into a room and look at Jeannie Buss and say, oh, let's make a deal with Jeannie Buss? No, you're probably going into that room going, what does Jeannie Buss know? She was just walking with a couple of ducks and her beta man the other day. What is she going to do in a negotiation? So James Cameron does something unprecedented, doesn't take money for 3 years of work, but then you fast forward 10 years later, James Cameron can produce, direct, make anything he wants at any time. How many times was Avatar, the sequel to Avatar, delayed? Like 80 times? Didn't matter. They let him. Hi, James. Hey, James. Hey, you do your thing, James. Hey, James. How much money, more money do you need, James? Oh, no problem. And guess what happened? What is it, the fourth most made movie of all time?
Well, Avatar 2 is...
The second one.
Yeah, the Avatar 1 is number one. And it's just so funny because, Joe, when you look at it, Avatar, and we're going to get back to the Lakers here in a second, and the Avatar, as my good friend, director Rob McCallum, who's directed a lot of award-winning documentaries, and he's about to do one on the maker of Doom here. He just got approved for doing that. Congratulations to him. I wanted to go ahead and put that out there. He had told me that, and when we discussed on the Cosmos that Avatar makes all this money despite not having a cultural footprint, because you don't see anybody dressing up in the characters of Avatar 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line after the movie got out, the original one. You don't see the characters of Avatar and Pandora really being out there. The video game, the one that was released by Ubisoft, that, I don't know if it has been a bomb or not, but it certainly hasn't, just garnered the imagination of people since it's been out since December. It's something that makes a lot of money, despite the fact it does not, like Star Wars. People dress up. I dress up as Star Wars. A lot of people dress up as Star Wars each and every day, each and every year. Yet right now, if you were to ask me with the next Star Wars movie or the next Avatar movie, which one's going to make more money, it's going to say hands down Avatar. It does so much despite itself and despite the lack of attachment that people have once they leave the theater with it. So yeah, it's just amazing to see what he's done with it. So I will say this, that when it gets back to the Lakers, my friend, and I guess you could say technically it is the best haul of assets if you include players and possible D'Lo sign and trade that you could do something with. Compared to OKC, it's just like a drop in the bucket. But realistically, the assets I mentioned to you, plus a Rui Hashimura, plus an Austin Reeves, plus a D'Lo sign and trade, what realistically do you think this summer we can realistically go for and get with those kind of assets once we obtain them all, I believe, come July the 1st?
The only players they're going to be able to acquire are disgruntled players or player, or a player that's being paid large sums of money that a team needs to unload on. So Jeremy Grant in Portland, Zach LaVine in Chicago. Those type of players are going to be the ones that are going to get that the Lakers have a shot at getting for the assets they have right now.
And Tyrone's put out a couple names that have been attached to the Lakers for quite some time. And Tyrone, thank you so much. DeJounte Murray, who was traded to Atlanta for 3 first-round draft choices. And that has, despite the numbers that he's got, it obviously hasn't clicked very well with Trae Young. There is, like in Cleveland, that possibility that they will break up that backcourt. I know we have talked to Alfred Esmond on this show, who's really in touch with Orlando, and he has heard the idea there that they would be going after one of those 2 guards in Atlanta. So that's not run out of the realm of possibility. But the Lakers were interested in DeJounte Murray at the trade deadline and didn't get it done. What do you think that's changed from this time to last that might be of interest to the Lakers on DeJounte Murray? And we'll get to your other suggestion next after that.
Well, DeJounte Murray you're going to need capital, that draft capital. That's I believe what they're looking for, because that's what
they were waiting for the Lakers pieces to add on, or some other team to add.
Correct. There was word that they wanted Austin Reeves. Lakers didn't want to give up Austin Reeves. Sure, I think they'd be good with that, but Austin Reeves doesn't really move the needle like that in a deal like that. Really, it's going to come down to assets. There's no shot at getting Murray in my book, because I think they're going to want more than what the Lakers will give. The only player you give up 3 first-round picks like that is a star player.
What about Young?
No.
Okay.
Young will never be a Laker, because there's going to be a team out there that'll give up much more to get him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean, because he after that Eastern Conference Finals run, which many are equating to the Lakers' Western Conference Finals run, where everything went right for them to get there, just like for the Lakers and Indiana this year, everything seemed to go right for them and us last year, and this year for Indiana. So that being the case, is Trae Young that player or that level that he deserves?
He would help
the assets
by far. I mean, he would be great, honestly.
Okay.
No doubt. I have no doubt.
Okay.
That Trae Young would be perfect with AD and LeBron.
Okay.
And he would take a lot of all those times that LeBron sits and you have Trae Young there. Oh man, that's a huge advantage. Okay. Huge resting advantage for everyone. The issue is it's going to be so top heavy that, because you're likely going to have to give up those assets. Even if they said, yeah, we'll take 3 first-round picks, Rui and Austin, you're done. And you're not going to bring back D'Lo at that point, so you lose all that money. It's just the pieces don't work for that one. The pieces don't work for that one. The Lakers are going to have to pick up a star player that needs to leave the team he's on because he's paid too much. That's the only time you're going to be able to have any leverage in that deal. Leverage as in not having to give up the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And do the Lakers want to give up those other 2 first-round picks, considering they're going to be going down? They're going down. I don't care if they give up the 17, but what do they have beyond that? They really don't have anything. Sign and trade D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell's not a guy that anybody's looking to get.
Maybe in Orlando and San Antonio.
And what happens there? What leverage do you need on that for that to happen in a sign and trade? You have to have a team that wants him. I don't know who would want D'Angelo Russell on a sign and trade.
I mean, you're talking Zach LaVine. I mean, I know I keep getting roasted when I keep throwing out LaMelo Ball's name, and I understand he gets injured quite a bit. I think they're going to give it another chance in Charlotte just to see how well he and Miller click. But if the team sides with Miller, I know LaMelo Ball's ego will probably be bruised to the point where he might ask out, and he is only 24. I'm just saying to consider it if that happens. Just keep an eye on that. I'm just saying, probably won't, but just keep saying. You guys talk about Zach LaVine, and I was going back and forth with somebody on it about how bad a deal that could potentially be. Now, if you're giving the Lakers an asset on top of that, like a Caruso, like you had mentioned the other day, or a draft pick on top of that to take on his bad salary, would you consider it then?
He'd have to have a major physical to be okay. Sometimes players play better when they're in a situation where they're needed. Chicago hasn't really been competitive for a while, but it would have to be a deal where you know that he's going to be good to play.
Well, that's why, Bloodhound, I'm asking for something with him along with it. If you're asking as the Lakers,
if I do a Zach LaVine deal, number one, I have to know he's going to be healthy. Number two, I want Alex Caruso in that deal.
Because remember last year, Joe, last summer, we were saying, sure, we'll take on the Ben Simmons contract, but you need to give us a first rounder or something else sustainable with that in order to take his salary. We're not going, we can't be fleeced by just taking him straight up. But same thing with Zach LaVine, because Zach LaVine, health-wise, Joe, is not reliable at all. Not reliable at all.
No. We also have to understand that the contract is going to be hard to trade. He makes too much money, so you're going to have to give up depth. You're going to have to give up Rui and Vanderbilt maybe. But see, that would work. Those guys' contracts are not long, right? So you could get rid of Gabe Vincent. I'm pretty confident that
the Vanderbilt one's harder because
if Chicago wants to unload that contract, they will take a deal for scraps. And those guys are scrap contracts. I don't know 100% if that's. I've never really heard anything out of Chicago that they want to get rid of Zach LaVine that bad. I think they're going to want to get a better deal. And I think the Laker deal wouldn't work. Lakers cannot. They can't really. I'd say Rui okay, but you got to get a second player in here too. Plus, the player you sign with the MLE, he's got to be someone who can produce, and then you got to re-sign D'Angelo. There's so many working parts to this. It's hard to really gauge and discuss the details right now because it's almost like trying to predict who's going to get drafted for all 30 teams or all 32 teams in the NFL during the fifth round. I don't care if you're Mel Kiper. I don't care if you're whomever that manages that. You're never going to guess all those guys. You're never going to guess who's going where at that point. It's just you're trying to do your best to understand who's left and who's got the most talent to get drafted, but you don't really know that. It's
Mhm.
impossible. So I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how this D'Angelo thing is going to go. I don't know what's going to happen with the 17th pick. We don't even know who the coach is. Is he going to be involved? It's a lot of stuff. It's too much stuff. And it all has to go right. Look at in the worst part about this, folks, all this has to go right. There can't be one mess up. Oh, and by the way, you have to make sure you guys are healthy next year too. And we're not going to know that till next year.
Well, it's kind of sad in a way. I mean, we talk and moan and groan about our situation here with the Los Angeles Lakers and how bad it's been maintained and run. It's not every team has had that kind of luck with health. Look at Chicago, who, like we talked about, is in the middle of purgatory, Joe. And a lot of that is self-induced with bad decision making. But remember 2022, late in 2022, I believe they were close to or leading the Eastern Conference at one time early in the 2022 season. And then the wheels came off the car with both Ball and also as well, of course, Levine, both having injury issues ever since. And, Ball's issue is not going to be alleviated anytime soon. He's on the hook for another year with Chicago, and he's not going to be able to give them anything. And then also as well, Levine, he was out a great portion of the year. I really think that they are going to go into this offseason, Bulls, with a plan to get rid of Zach LaVine. I don't think they have that in mind. The Vucevic's, the Levines, even the DeRozans to an extent, if DeRozan is willing to play ball, pardon the pun, because of the fact that these guys are older assets, Joe. These are now over 30 players. Some of them have injury history, but they're getting nowhere fast with this kind of with these players. So I'm thinking that one, two, or all of these players are going to be moved by the Bulls in the offseason, or at least they're going to be tried very hard to, because of the fact that they're just, as a team, they should have the realization now that they're never going to be what they want them to be.
Well, you have Levine, who's making what, $43 million next year. Caruso makes around $9 million. Would they package both of them up? I don't know if the Lakers have enough salary when I say dead contracts, I mean dead player contracts like Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt. I don't know if that's enough. They're only getting paid, what, 11, 10 at a time? That's 21 mil. Do you throw in Rui Hachimura in there? Okay, I guess I would be willing to do that to make contracts match. Do they have to throw in a first-round pick? I'd throw a 17 this year if you have to. If you came up to me and said, all right, we're going to give you Rui, Gabe, and Jared and the 17th pick this year for Zach LaVine and Caruso, and then whatever, fillers in there to make it work. I mean, what choice do you have at that point? Make it work. Make it happen. Make it happen. Make that deal happen. Then you have to make sure D'Angelo comes back, and you have to get someone of relevance with the MLE. You have to get a rotational player that's very, very valuable at that pick, because that's the only really free agent pickup you can make that can make a difference at that price. And then you can start playing some scenarios in your head on what might work.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching this. I truly appreciate it. Tyrone, Zach LaVine might be 29, but his knees are over 40. Let's just be honest with each other when we say things like that, because he has had so many problems and issues getting healthy. And I'm not saying it would be a bad deal if you went to try and get him, Joe, because you're taking a big risk, but you better get something along with Zach LaVine. Because again, you look at the number of games he has played in the last few seasons, it's not been pretty. He's had one season in which he's played over 70 games. 3 seasons overall in his entire career. 2 of those came in his first 2 years in the league. You're taking a big risk if you go and get a player like that, and you're hoping for a big payoff if that's the case, Joe.
Beggars can't be choosers at this point. It doesn't matter whether this deal is fair or unfair. The Lakers are not in a position to pick and choose what they want. And if you look at how the NBA has played itself the last 5-6 years, other than this year when he had foot surgery, he played 77, 67, 58, 60, 63 from 19 to 23. Seems to be the standard, and he made 2 All-Star appearances in those years. Take what you can get, man. They're willing to, spend that much money for the third guy. What else are they going to do with LeBron? You can't. You have to compete with. If you're going to re-sign LeBron, you have to compete. And I haven't even looked at what that does with the. I'm assuming they're gonna. Can they even make that deal? Won't it go? Will it go to the second apron? I haven't looked into those details yet.
That would probably push them into the second apron.
So then they get hard capped, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So really, we might not even be qualifying this. We need to update ourselves with these new rules, and we've been discussing this on the show for a while now. The 700-page collective bargaining agreement that was signed last year is just too long. I have too much stuff in my life to sit down and read it, but I will try and read it. I will try to read the fine points so that we can have a coherent discussion on here that doesn't fly off the rails when, we realize that, wait a minute, that's not possible, Joe. You need to have more information.
But again, when you have 3 contracts, LeBron, we're assuming that LeBron is going to sign for 3 years, 160 when we talk about this. Correct, Joe? Much to our chagrin. I'm not. What do you think, he's going to give the Lakers a discount?
If he wants to win, yeah, but I don't know.
Do you think he will, honestly?
I don't know if it'll matter, even if you took $10 million less. I don't think it would matter, honestly.
And you guys are talking about Clay. Just look at the chat, Joe. Again, and I know Tyrone says we're begging at this point. Like you said, we're begging at this point. We must be begging because all the old players I see in that chat that are like Klay Thompson, DeMar DeRozan, and I'm like, you guys don't learn from what happened before. Remember, that was it 2 or 3 seasons ago, we had the world's oldest roster when Rob signed up all those old players from the past. Is that 2 or 3 seasons ago?
22.
Yeah, 22. Okay. So yeah, you're just, when you go and after all these old players and you're hoping that they're going to do what they once did, it's, again, you're begging. I get that. I understand that. But then again, these kind of things, if you trade valuable assets that we have, the few that we have, for these older players, and it doesn't pay off with a title, those things come back to bite you in the end, don't they, Jim?
The only real valuable assets are those draft picks. There's no one really on this roster other than maybe Anthony Davis that if you lost would be a hindrance. Lakers have a massive hole in the talent department. There's good players, but there's just not those players that you can see, okay, look at Derek White. I know there's always one that has a phenomenal year and then they drop off or whatever, but we don't have a Derek White on this team. We don't have.
You only have a Kobe White like Chicago does.
Yeah, you don't have that third or fourth guy that can come in. Bruce Brown last year for the Nuggets. There's no. If you'd had at least one or two of those guys in this year's roster, they'd probably make a run. If LeBron was 5 years younger, you wouldn't need that. That's why they won in 2020. But then again, they did have Caruso, KCP, Kuzma. They had Rondo. If you notice, Rondo is a feisty defender. KCP is a feisty defender. Kuzma developed into a good defender. Caruso made a career being good on defense and hitting timely shots. None of these are here with the team right now. Austin has it in spurts, and D'Angelo's had it one game per series at best. We can't, the Lakers can't afford that. Rui had a good playoff last year, but came back down to earth this year, and that's probably he's probably somewhere in the middle. He wasn't as bad as he was this year, wasn't really as good as he was last year. But see, that's the thing is Rui is the perfect 7-8 guy on a team. He's not a starter. Austin, probably best as a six man of the year talent. D'Angelo can be a starter, has the ability to be a starter, but he's also not a money guy. He's not a money player. So you need other guys that could pick up the slack, and then he'd have more open shots, which would benefit him more in that case because he wouldn't have all the pressure on him. Because it seems like the pressure gets to D'Lo. He can't focus. And that's what happens with a lot of players. It takes a certain person to focus. Can they look at the money that they might make and focus in on that and zero in on that and be good? That's what happened with Bruce Brown last year. Right?
These are things that I've said in regards to Rui and Austin for a while, that they were not, or they should not be starters. They'd be excellent 6th, 7th guys come off the bench. I've said this now for months. And
there's really only 3 starters on this team. I can say D'Angelo's a starter, probably the 5th best starter on a team.
Yeah,
should be. And then you have AD and LeBron, and that's it. Reeves should be a 6 guy, and Rui should be a 7-8 guy. And if you're playing 2 bench guys and a guy that's a distant 3 on your starting lineup against a league where you've noticed that the depth has minimized because of these contracts and because there's only so much you can do with those contracts in terms of depth, you're going to have a really good starting 5. You have to have a good starting 5, a really good starting 5 to compete.
I think Bruce Brown is over $20 million next season as well. He's got the short
massive overpay. Bruce Brown, the fact that Bruce Brown is making 20 and Caruso's making 9 goes to show you that timing is everything in NBA contracts. Because if Caruso did what he did in 2020 last year for Denver, right? He would have got paid $20 million. That's how that thing opens up. That's how that thing opens up. So right now you're hearing about Brandon Ingram, right? You're hearing about Brandon Ingram now that New Orleans doesn't want to pay him $52 million a year.
Yep.
Now, whether you want to or not is, hey, you guys negotiated this deal. Are you going to let him walk? Is he going to go to Philly? Philly needs somebody. Would they want Brandon Ingram to help? He's probably a good 3 guy, actually, when you think about it. They'll pay him, and then now you lose him for nothing. And then now you have Zion and Mary Minimums. Now what? New Orleans is back to talk about a team that shouldn't have had a second team. That's another one. Move Charlotte and move New Orleans to Seattle and Vegas. They're right back. You'll start hearing Zion trades at that point. Now New Orleans is restarting their team again.
Well, David Griffith, the day or when they were doing their sign-off interviews for the season, he mentioned a lot of changes have to be made because he sees that it's not working. And CJ McCollum, who's got still a pretty fat contract, but he is an older guard, and I don't know how effective he still can be. Obviously, he wasn't effective enough for CJ McCollum. Yeah, he shot 43% from behind the arc this past season, but when it counted in the playoffs, he didn't help them enough to get them where they needed to be. Jonas Valanciunas, I know, has been talked about as far as a big guy for the Lakers, but he's also over. A lot of these options, Joe, are either over or well over 30. Does that concern you at all when you're trying to look for players to fill up these roster spots?
Well, I wouldn't mind having Valanciunas take the MLE.
Okay.
I think that would be a huge win.
Oh, in more ways than one.
The question is, will he? Will he command that number, or will he want more? Well, looking at his age,
33, 32,
33. I mean, there's a possibility there. There's a possibility. It's not out of the realm. So I would keep that open to see if you can get lucky and get a legitimate starting center that could actually do things with AD. And then you can shift AD like we did in 2020 and 2021. You can shift AD to the center position when you need to adjust to whatever team you're playing. See, having that luxury is important, even if you're not going to be completely that way, which you can't. You can't in today's NBA. You can't just run a power forward, center, front line and run it all game long, and all year long as well. You have to adjust to the team. That's why Minnesota struggles. That's why Rudy Gobert struggles in the playoffs, because they exploit that. Rudy Gobert cannot shoot. Doesn't matter how good he is on defense. The reason why he sucks on defense in the playoffs is because it's irrelevant in the playoffs. He can't spread the floor. And therefore, it affects his defense.
Kwabena Tillman for the Celtics. He's given them some spot minutes on the Celtics during the last game. I know they did pick on him quite a bit. The Mavs did on the defensive end in both game 3 and game 4. So you could take that from what you will. But as a third big, I think that, you could do worse. Also, you guys talked about trying to see if you could resurrect the career of James Wiseman on a minimum. We tried already to get a lottery bust in Jackson Hayes, and you saw how that went.
I don't want any projects. The Lakers, as we see them right now, have 4 projects on their team whom we don't want. I don't want them. You have Jalen Hood-Schifino, who's probably 12 months away from just officially busting. And there's a team option after next year. So if he busts bad again this year, I would be surprised that they pick up that option. Then you have
you don't pick up that option.
You have Cam Reddish, he's just not good, folks.
Well, he's a free agent, I believe.
Maxwell Lewis is his jump shot. We're going to see summer league here, but his jump shot is horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So between Maxwell Lewis, Cam Reddish, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and Max Christie, this team has 4 young players who don't do diddly squat for this team.
Oh, he has a player option for
absolutely nothing for this team. They do nothing. There's no positive in any of those guys' game.
Cam Reddish, he has a player option he could pick up for $2.4 million.
No more projects. No more former busts. I don't want any of these players anymore. At least not playing. I don't want them relied on. If you have them as an 11th, 12th player to be late fourth quarter players so that, after a blowout, fine. But I don't want anyone that's in the rotation to be a bum. I don't know if that's being realistic, but that you have what you have. Stick with what you have, I guess. But don't bring any more in, is what I'm saying. Please.
I've been saying it for a long time. I just said, Dwight's reiterating that Reeves is a bench. Reeves, I think, could be a future 6th man of the year. I just think that's where you just see where people's careers seem to be going. I think if he and Rui are your 6, 7 guys coming off the bench, I think you're really in much better shape. But the thing is, who are you going to play around as your 3, 4, 5? Are you going to keep D'Lo? Are you not? Are you going to use him in a sign and trade? These are D'Lo, we don't even know if he wants to stay. on the Los Angeles Lakers, but could use the help of the Lakers to get to his new team. That has to come into play. If you're Rob Pelinka, you have to be smart in how you go ahead and deal with that. Because again, if the Lakers want him back, okay. But if he doesn't want to come back, you got to at least put the word out there, Joe, that you're willing to go ahead and work out with another team on a sign and trade so you can at least get something back.
The only way you do a sign and trade is if the other team wants to give D'Angelo more money in that deal. He'll want to do it for the extra year. That's what I'm thinking. Is anybody going to give D'Angelo a 5th year or want to give him a 5th year? I don't think so. So he can leave. He can leave however he wants. He could go, you know what? I want to go to Orlando. And he'll go to Orlando and go, guys, what do you want to offer me? Well, we'll offer you 4 years, $60 million.
I think he can get higher than that.
No, he's not worth more than that. But
so let me ask you this. Let me see this on that note. Do you think he's more or less worth more or less?
Doesn't matter what he's worth or not worth.
Okay.
I'll explain. If D'Lo could go, well, okay, do this for me, guys. How about you give me 2 years at $30 million per? Then you don't have to pay, you're not stuck for 4 years. You give me a good deal that I want for 2 years, and I'll come to you right away. Then you're done. Lakers can't do anything about it. They lose that player, and they can't get anyone to replace him. I know that's what I would do if I was D'Lo. Look, you already said you'd pay me $60 million. Pay it to me in 2 years. Then you're off the hook if I don't perform. And he would help somebody like Orlando.
Because he has a player option, D'Angelo does, for 18.6 for the final year of his contract.
Yeah.
So you're asking him to take 15.
I think it's worth the risk to go get 20 per year at least for 3 years.
Because I think he can get more than what Grayson Allen
I think
got
you're
at
over. I think you're wearing your Laker glasses right now. I think you're over.
I didn't say from us. I said from wherever he can get over 18.5 a year.
I don't think anybody's thinking about D'Angelo Russell in the NBA.
So you don't think he'll make 18.5?
I think he could.
Essentially,
he could if it's a 2-year contract. Likely, 3 years at 60. That's probably a good number too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's more.
4 years at 80. Would somebody want to commit 4 years to him for 80?
That would be a tougher deal for me.
They would if it was a 4th year team option, maybe.
Yeah.
Do the Lakers match that? I would, because you could trade that. That's a tradable contract.
That is, but that is worth more than the 18.5 or 18.6 that.
But then, what if he gets it in Orlando? Right, state tax, Florida. It's going to be a better deal over there, and he's not a.
Or San Antonio, Texas.
I don't think Pop would want D'Angelo on that team.
Okay. They do need a point guard. Good shooting point guard.
They need a lot of things.
Yeah, they do. But Wemby is only going to be patient for so long. If you've listened to him talk and speak, he's a very competitive individual. So he's not going to be happy too long if San Antonio doesn't.
I wouldn't start doing that. You'll end up in Toronto.
I don't think Wemby will pretty much go where he wants to go. I think he's going to be that elite level player.
Well, he's going to have to let that contract ride out then. A lot of guys don't do that.
That's a good question, Eric. Detroit is a possible stop for D'Angelo Russell. They have money. I know.
He might want to stay in LA at that point. I think the only way he goes to Detroit is if they drop 4 years, $100 million, something like that, which they might. It's not looking good on that. That one is probably the one that I'm.
So what realistically can we get with the assets, supposedly treasure trove of assets Laker Tom was talking about? It is the best the Lakers have had in years, all kidding aside. But comparatively speaking, it's a drop in a bucket compared to the teams I mentioned earlier in the chat. Let's say like Oklahoma City, New York, New Orleans, just to name a few. Who do you think that there's players out there realistically that the Lakers can get that can improve our chances, at least moving up a small amount in the Western Conference? Not asking like a championship team per se, because that really would be something I think that's beyond the realm of Rob Pelinka right now. But is there a move or maneuver with the assets that we have that can get us incrementally better out of the plans per se?
Probably not.
Okay.
No.
So you don't think a Zach LaVine, if he rights the ship here in LA, in his hometown, would do it?
It's
DeJounte Murray, if
it's
that gets
just better deals out there for these teams.
Marketing.
I'm saying these names and scenarios just because that's what the Lakers can do. But if I'm Chicago and you come to me and say, we're going to give you Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent, Rui, and a first-round pick for Zach and Caruso, I'd probably laugh.
Eric, that's a good question. That's second one of the day. Compliments, my friend. OKC. Would OKC want D'Lo or go after D'Lo if they move Giddey? I think if they go after and get a Markkanen, they would be interested in upgrading off of Giddey. I think they are going to move Giddey in the offseason. I think that's pretty much a done deal.
No, this team is not going to win a championship with the Giddies of the world and Valanciunas. There has to be another player in this that you can rely on when it matters, and that's usually going to be like a third guy.
I agree.
It's just there's no.
You're talking about the fringes.
Whether it's a third guy star or whether it's a third guy contributor, I don't know. Whatever. They need a third guy that can be consistent and make shots in the playoffs, and it's not just LeBron and AD.
Oh, you keep throwing Zach LaVine's name out there, Tyrone. He's just, again, that's a huge risk if you can. And Colin Sexton, he's never really quite regained everything back from after his devastating knee injury, but he's played really solid as a backup in Utah. So he could be really a good guy coming off the bench if he's moved to the Lakers.
I'm going to say this again. The Lakers need to focus on what they can control. Right now, they have to get a coach. I don't know what the hell's going to happen now. It's a little too late now to get them prepared for the draft. So you're already behind in where you had no room to be behind, which is you're going to bring in a coach that's not going to be prepared for the draft. I'm predicting they're trading that pick because I think signing LeBron means they have to win now, which means they're going to have to go get somebody else. Who, I don't know.
So you're saying, Tyrone, it's different when Zach LaVine is number 3. Well, Zach LaVine wasn't even a number 1 on his own team because DeRozan was, I think if you talk to people in Chicago, as we have before, he was their number 1 there. So you could say number 2, but even if it was number 3 there on the Lakers, the health, the fact he has not.
I mean, the fact that you had, I know that most of the people that were talking about this are hacks or clickbait types,
which you will continue to hear about in the days to come.
But I'm sitting there going, more people have talked about this stupid Bronny James thing than actual talent. So much so that you guys all, I know when you're not paying attention. Edie is not a 17th overall pick, folks. If he was good, he'd be in the top 5. Big guys don't drop. Like, those guys get picked first if they're good. Wait a minute, Joe. What about Jokic? Well, Jokic was on the other side of the planet.
Zach Edey, after he was the player of the year last year, was still he applied for the draft last year, and everybody told him, stay in school because you're not going to get picked anywhere near where you want to get picked.
And no one tells you not to go if you're not good. If you're good enough.
Well, Shannon Jr., I think he's moving up the boards after his rape case got acquitted, and congratulations to him on that. So I think that he is going to be somewhere in the lottery. I think he's going to move far up, but he's a good talent. I have seen him play. He is good talent if you're able to get him at 17. But like Joe said the other day, when it comes to Terrence Shannon Jr., or are the Lakers going to get someone with that kind of history, whether or not he was innocent or guilty or whatever? In this case, he was innocent and he was acquitted. Are the Lakers going to get somebody? I mean, that's the same reason why, Rondo doesn't get more consideration for the head coaching job because of whatever's attached to as far as legal issues are concerned, which is a shame because Rondo is probably the best option out there, in my opinion, for a head coach that's available. And Terrence Shannon Jr. would be a great option for the Lakers. But, as Joe said, are those legal issues, whether or not they've been acquitted or not, still going to be the baggage, the baggage that they have? Is that still going to be a problem for the Lakers? I think it is, especially in Rondo's case.
They have baggage in their own organization. Do you want more baggage coming in? This team doesn't have time to deal with baggage. Rondo's baggage. Players that are coming off whatever they're coming out of is baggage. Lakers need a 2020 redux. We didn't hear anything that whole year. Nothing. No one said anything. No one bothered anybody. It was eerie how quiet it was. That's what the Lakers need to do. No time for this off the court trash. They don't have time for this. They already have problems inside their own buildings. They can't even find the right coach. And then when they do, he's not going to be ready for the draft. So now you're going to draft somebody if you keep the pick. Is it going to be tailored to LeBron, or is it going to be tailored to the coach and what he wants? I'd like to go with the coach, especially considering you need this guy to be valuable for the team. LeBron, he's not a coach. And I'm frankly tired of LeBron having any say in anything. LeBron is good at being LeBron. That's it. He's not good at anything else. Same thing with Magic. Same thing with Michael Jordan. Now, if it's Larry Bird, that's a different story. Larry Bird is a great executive, great coach, was a good coach for 3 years. So I don't understand these questions. And Zach Edey, folks, do your homework. And if I hear Bronny James at 17 one more time, I'm gonna freaking explode. Seriously, whoever says that is a effing moron. I mean, seriously, absolutely clueless. You should not watch basketball. Or actually, you shouldn't talk basketball. You should go back into whatever hole you're in. It's absolutely asinine that you would even think that, let alone say it. Zach Edey is Jahlil Okafor 2024, folks. I would rather get him at 55, not 17. Anyone who picks him before 17 has got a rude awakening coming.
He's just because he's so limited on one end of the floor defensively. Yes, at the rim, he might be something. The problem is, though, drop coverage. You're committing.
Rudy Gobert, folks. If you don't believe it, watch what a guy with limited offensive skills and who's someone who can't shoot in today's NBA. Look what happens. This isn't something. I don't know who Zach Edey is from the neighbor down the street in my house. I don't know these people. I do know their game. I've seen enough of it. He isn't good enough, folks, to be anywhere near a lottery pick or in the top 20.
Tyrone,
late first with the right team, yes. Absolutely. What's that right team? I don't know. maybe Oklahoma City. He'd be good off the bench.
Somewhere where they can develop him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe even Minnesota. Let him be the backup. And heck, maybe you can use him in spurts that Rudy Gobert can't play in. I don't know. But the Lakers are not going to get anything out of Zach Edey because they're already having problems with the center position not being able to be spread out.
Let me ask you this. You remember Luka Garza?
Yes.
Player of the year, 6'10", a center, had all the numbers, player of the year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He barely has made the NBA. He's now on Minnesota, has finally earned a contract, but he is on the fringes as an NBA player. So just because you see two-time player of the year, et cetera, in college, it doesn't always translate, does it, Joe, to the NBA?
Well, you always know that there are other things going on. For example, I remember reading an article where they were complimenting Luka for being a good businessman. He's an economics major, and he was one of the few guys that was out front with the NFTs and the crypto. When people are talking about your outside interests typically, and you're an athlete, they're trying to even things out at that point, usually.
I think a good way to find out if you think Edey's going to play well in the league will be during the Olympics because he'll be playing, I'm assuming, for Team Canada.
If he develops a jump shot.
Yeah.
If he develops a jump shot in the next 3 to 4 years, yes. Can he? We didn't think Brook Lopez would be a runner-up at Defensive Player of the Year. Did you, Gerald?
No.
Absolutely not. That was the biggest surprise I've seen in years in basketball. I don't know where that came from. And, of course, he became a really good shooter, which wasn't a shock, but I was shocked at how good he got. Edey could be the next Brook Lopez in 10 years, maybe. Sure, maybe. But then, is he? Maybe he could be a better version of Brook Lopez because he can get down low and can play.
Well, that was what the message, but the problem is...
But what are you going to do? Yeah, what are you going to do when you have a team like Dallas? How are you gonna cover Luka and Kyrie and they're running back and forth? How are you gonna cover guys like Tatum and Brown and
Zubac
White?
Moves, JSJ Zubac moves much better and faster than Edey. Look at the way they run up and down the floor. Go back to the national championship game on Edey. Look at and Klingon too, for that matter. See how fast they move along, not compared to each other, compared to the other players on the floor. How much and how well they moved back and forth and transition from offense to defense. How well they moved on the defensive end. Zubac, you know what, Joe? I know the Clippers lost to Dallas, but one of the reasons why they were in it as much as they did, even when Kawhi out, Zubac. You saw him, I saw him. Zubac played at a really high level for the Los Angeles Clippers. And it made me hurt really even more about the trade that Magic. I mean, just imagine Zubac today if he would have been alongside AD in the Lakers.
Well, that trade, not only was it the worst part about the trade was who we traded him for.
Oh, yeah, Muscala.
And the issue with guys like Magic and Jordan and the Pelinkas and the stint that Phil Jackson had in New York is that they aren't in the gyms working. This is a working job, folks. You have to go scout and watch and follow. What made Jerry West great, folks? Jerry West went into those gyms. Now, he was very, very humble and saying anybody could have seen Kobe Bryant. Bull crap. There were times when Jerry said stuff that didn't make any sense. Not because he was vicious, not because he was not communicative, not because he was not prepared. He said it to be humble. Folks, no one saw Kobe's talent, except maybe one other guy, that was John Calipari. That's it.
Well, the thing
John Calipari. That's it. So, now, why? Why was Jerry able to see it? Because he's in it. He's watching. These guys don't prepare. They don't watch. So when you talk about Zubac and the trade, what do you think Magic's doing during that time? What's he doing? Is he in the gym? Is he watching guys play? Is he seeing how these guys develop? Remember when Stone Hansen talked about certain players and how, like Holland this year is like the one of the examples. This guy's going to take a few years to develop because he can see it. And Stone knows this because he watched 13 hours of film and videos on these players. He's going to know, yeah, this guy's mechanics, this guy's athleticism is going to likely develop as he grows, as you see him kind of maneuver. You can tell that his body isn't there yet in terms of his footwork, because when you're growing and you're a kid, your balance is off when you're growing too quick. Things like that. This is what this is about, folks. You got to be able to identify this stuff. That's what scouting does. That's what management in that position is to scout and develop and watch and see what can develop. So they traded Zubac for Muscala. Magic called Rob a backstabber. Michael Jordan is not talking to Charles Barkley because Barkley called him out on his ownership. Phil Jackson was the final blow for New York before they went in World Wide West style, and that whole management completely finally turned things around. So as great as Phil is, as great as Magic is, and Jordan, and all these guys, they're not great if you don't prepare, folks, if you don't do the job. So Zach Edey, going back to the subject at hand here, there's been enough tape on him. There's been enough to know what works in the NBA right now. And unfortunately, Zach Edey was born 20 years too late. He can develop into a Brook Lopez in the future. The question is, will he? You got to develop a jump shot, and you got to be able to play good defense at this point. Do you think he's a good defender, Gerald?
I think he is.
Can he guard guys at the 3-point line?
No. And see, that's
exactly.
the thing. That's the thing with Edey. Well, let me just say this. And Corbina said it earlier. I think around the rim, Edey can defend, but the problem is you have to get there. And with Yao Ming was a great comparison. You know, they're both around 7'5", 300 pounds. Joe, when did Yao Ming, what years was Yao Ming really effective? Late 90s per se, right? Right around there?
Yao Ming?
Yao Ming.
Yao Ming was drafted in 2002.
2002. Okay. I keep thinking late 90s for something like that.
So the last great year, well, I shouldn't say great. The last year Yao Ming had a shot, if he had just stayed healthy, was 2009.
Okay. So if that's the case, Joe, the game was
he had 7-8 years. That's it.
The game was completely different at that point in time than what it is now, correct?
Yes, a lot more. As far as whether Yao Ming would have been effective in today's game.
So that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to allude to. That's what Corbina tried to do.
He was a good shooter. He might have, but he would have probably lasted 5 years doing it because his body wouldn't have allowed him to run as much.
In these spread out offenses where shooting is a key, especially from the perimeter, I don't see Zach Edey being as
Zach Edey is a situational player.
Yeah, 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes a game.
If he can develop the defense, the perimeter defense, and develop a jump shot, he has a shot, but that's hard to do sometimes.
That's hard to do because the fact is, getting him out in the perimeter, I think he's still at this point a sitting duck. You stretch him out to the floor. As soon as he comes on, Joe, he's going to be picked on. Luka or whoever has the ball, Kyrie, whoever has the ball, is going to try to get him on an isolation, get him on a pick and roll, and get him out on an island. Who do you think wins that contest?
Well, speaking of picked on, I don't know if you remember this, but Zubac was getting dunked on left and right.
Yeah,
Right?
A couple of years ago, he
Right.
was.
Going back to what Stone said again, folks. This is why I'm going to keep repeating this, because I think it's.
But let me finish this, Joe. Let me
Go
finish
ahead.
this.
Go ahead.
He was still even being tried to pick on by Luka in this previous series, and it did work on a couple occasions. But he has improved his perimeter defense to the point where he's not as much of an issue, and he was able to stay on the floor, become a dominant rebounder for the Clippers, and actually was a great part of their success, whatever they had against the Dallas Mavericks. But he did still get isolated out on the perimeter.
Right. And what did he do in the last 3-4 years in that process? Number one, he lost a lot of weight.
Yes.
Number two, he worked on his game. He also had some good coaching, too. That helps, putting him in the right position. If Kawhi Leonard didn't get hurt, Clippers would be in a much better position, obviously. They're so reliant
on that guy. They might have won that series, Joe.
They probably would, and they probably would have gotten to a finals by now if Kawhi was healthy. But it's going to come down to the player. But you cannot – I mean, I guess in this draft you can risk it because it's not a lot of talent. But I still wouldn't pick Zach anywhere near the top 20. I would pick him up if you have a really good team late first round. If you have to pick him in the first round, I would say if he goes to a team that can use him situationally, then I would go ahead and draft him for depth purposes and the possibility of maybe having somebody that could end up being another Brick Lopez down the road. But it's not going to happen right away, folks. Zach Edey, if he puts in the work, is going to be a 3-4 year player before you start seeing the full. I mean,
what was Brook Lopez for the majority of his career?
Brook is an outlier. Brook was a 28 guy, 20 points, 8 rebounds. Down low. And then
until he came to the Lakers, and then he started developing a 3-point shot.
Correct. And then what did Magic do? He didn't even call him back. You see where we're going here, folks? I mean, come on. If you're going to sit here and tell me things like we should do this, we should do that, we should continue to – folks, we already did this. I'm done with it. The Lakers could have drafted Jaylen Brown, and they could have drafted Jason Tatum. You know why they didn't? Because our management had their heads up their ulu.
Okay.
I swear, if it wasn't for that jersey, I'd be cheering for the Celtics because I want that to sting, and it's probably gonna sting tomorrow, regardless. And everyone thought this because everyone got the wool pulled over their eyes. Everyone, even the Celtics people like Bill Simmons. And maybe management, maybe coaching has something to do with it too. Does Brandon Ingram become Jaylen Brown if he goes to Boston? Probably not. Is Lonzo Ball going to be Jason Tatum in Boston? Probably not.
Well, the only thing I just wanted to interrupt. Tyrone said we should have kept Josh Hart. I know that Rob screwed up the trade to include an extra second rounder, but outside of that, all the assets that we gave to New Orleans, Joe, we do it over again in a heartbeat if it meant getting one championship out of it. Because how many teams win a championship over the course of their lives and whatnot? I would do that trade again 100 times out of 100 because it brought you a championship. And I know it gave away Josh Hart, and I understand what he means to New York at this point in time, Joe. But come on, it's AD gave you a title, helped bring you a title. I mean, that's what are you going to do? Yeah. You don't want the title?
The Lakers, the LeBron AD era died when they traded for Westbrook. And they've been reeling since. And there's a lot of blame there. When you have too many chefs in the kitchen, I come from a family of dancers and chefs. It's not a surprise that I'm in the entertainment business low key because I have artists. I've always had artists around me. That's what that world is. Performers. Being a chef is a performance in a lot of ways. When you have too many chefs in the kitchen, this is what happens. Magic, you have Rob, you have LeBron in somebody's ear, you have Clutch. Who was in Jerry's ear besides Jerry Buss between 1982 and 2001?
At that time?
Did you ever hear about anything? It wasn't until Phil Jackson kicked Jerry West out of practice before I knew any of that stuff was going to happen. Any kind of wrench. I don't remember Randy Funn saying anything. I don't remember Dale Harris saying anything. I don't remember Mike Dunleavy saying anything other than coaching. And it was Jerry West and Dr. Buss.
I think Joe said the other day he would rather die than have Stanley Johnson back on the team. I think it was something like that. I think when you typed in there.
I said I'd rather I think it's something about death.
Yeah, I think you said you'd rather die than.
I'd rather deal with death than deal with Stanley Johnson
okay.
coming back. I have no idea where that's the fourth. That was like the fourth or fifth time I heard his name pop up.
Well, I just heard in the chat when someone said I think it was Pale that Wenyan Gabriel is a stud.
Well, he's that's a joke.
Oh my gosh!
I'm not even taking that seriously. Come on.
That was a year of me just trolling on all these Laker fans that were saying, "Oh, we need to see more Gabriel. We need to." I'm like, you guys are not watching the games, are you? Gabriel hasn't been on 7 NBA teams for a reason. Why, if he's such a stud, why isn't he still with Boston today? I don't think he's still on their roster. I think he did get waived. So there's reasons why he's been on so many rosters. He's just, I mean, he's now at least more power to him. He's going to, he's made his allotment of years, so he'll be able to go ahead and get his NBA pension. And, he's pretty good for the rest of his life now.
Yay. That's good to hear.
Yeah. But he's a stud. Yeah. According to some of our chat members there.
I'm sure he's a stud at the Y and Europe and the CBA. Basketball players who play anywhere near an NBA league are studs. Every single basketball player in the NBA is amazing. It's just that they're not amazing in the NBA.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, all these guys we clown on at the end of the roster.
The levels of players in the NBA is so astronomically huge between the levels. It's mind-boggling.
I mean, I agree with you because you take those players that we just Cam Reddish that we clown on all the time. If he walks into the Y right now, he's immediately the best player.
Brian Scalabrine talked about this on his shows years ago.
Yes.
People would come up to him because he's a goofy white guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can take you, Brian. And he would school them. It's like, dude, he played in the NBA. And he played in the NBA. He wasn't even a Wenyan Gabriel. Like, he actually had he was useful for a few years. Dude, just come on, stop it. Ronda Rousey can beat men. I remember that was going on before she got smacked by Holly Holm. I'm like, guys, wake up. Come on. Stop talking with your hearts. Start talking with your balls and brains.
Now they're trying to compare him. Pale Fox is trying to compare him to Christian Wood. And that's, I'm like, neither gave us anything, if I could spell that correctly. So, yes. They both have that in common. They both gave us Zippo. Yes. And of course, we're stuck on the hook for another year with Christian Wood, which is just outstanding. Even though it's only for a couple of million. So, yeah. But be that as it may, Joe, I think we'll start to wind this on down. Again, we brought this up because the fact is, again, Laker Tom is saying in one way, he's right. When come July the 1st, we're going to have more assets than we've had in some time. But realistically, compared to the other teams in the league or some of the other teams in the league,
I don't understand what that means. We have more assets than we had before.
Well, just because by the sheer fact
What, a 29, 31 pick?
Because you're gambling
That
on
it?
the Lakers being bad in those areas.
You have picks in that 2020, picks 29 and 31, right?
Yep. Was it 24, 29, and 31? And then you can do swaps in 26, 28, and 30. Don't forget the 5 second rounders, which probably you don't think very much of. That's the question. What realistically can that get the Lakers? It won't get us Markkanen. Could get us Zach LaVine. But again, you're taking on a really bad salary with a really high injury risk there.
Yeah.
And you're hoping they give us something along with it in return.
And they probably can get a better deal somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That's the boot. See, the Lakers, that's the other thing, is that their deals are these teams are not going to likely care to help the Lakers, just like every year.
Every year. And that's the problem, Darren. If we run it back, we're a team that's 7th place in the Western Conference to start off with. Do we go higher or do we go lower? And if that's the case, and the rest.
Well, you run it back. You're not really running it back if you add talent, meaning if you pick somebody really good at 17 and get a really good player for the mid-level exception. Right out the gate, if you can hit on those two pieces, you have 2 rotational players. So that already makes the team better. You have to bring back D'Angelo too. But there's no one on the roster that's young that's developing right now. I don't know if they know how to develop. I don't trust whatever coach that comes in here to develop, especially JJ Redick. JJ Redick is got a better chance of being fired in 2 years than being the coach for the next 5 to 10 years. Like, forget about 10 years, 5 years. And I swear to God, if Bronny comes anywhere near this team, I'm not watching the Lakers next year anyways.
I will say that Tyrone Church has said Vanderbilt and Woods coming back healthy. Vanderbilt, a lot of issues this past season. Has no offensive game to speak of. But we've got him on the hook for 4 years.
I'm not going to rely on Vanderbilt being healthy. He's weak physically. Christian Wood is weak mentally. It's just the facts, folks. I'm not going to rely on. I would like at least some small deal that gets rid of Vanderbilt in a trade. Maybe get a unsung pick somewhere here. But I don't know. It's a lot of work. They got a lot of work. Then they're going to have a coach that's not going to have a say in the draft. Or even if there's a draft day deal. I don't know. Again, it's just not starting well, guys. It's already tough. They have to all hit. They have to be 100% on all these deals.
JSJ, you say Wood was so underwhelming. He was signed to a minimum contract. So he played and had the results of a minimum player.
They're going to have to prove that they know what they're doing here. What have they proven since they've been bounced from the playoffs? There's been more negative than positive.
Oh, I know Dan Hurley said that, Oscar. But
see, I don't like that either. That's not a good sign. Maybe the Lakers dodged a bullet with that. Why is he saying he should be a lottery pick? That's not. Dan Hurley should not say that.
Is Dan Hurley investigating the G League talent that from the G League night? Is he investigating the international talent that's at the top of the draft?
Don't. That's Magic Johnson stuff. Magic Johnson does that kind of crap. Don't do that. I don't know why Dan did that.
How tall is Edie? 7'4", 7'5" in that range, Darren. 300 pounds. Somewhere in the neighborhood of what Yao Ming size-wise, if you're looking at that.
He's going to definitely need to drop about 20, 30 pounds if he wants to stay in shape in today's NBA.
I think he measured a little over 7'4" without shoes. So Lakers Nation says, I agree. Vanderbilt got to go. Christian Wood got to go. And Austin Reeves got to go. Also with LeBron James, take Bronny with him to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
If we could start over, that'd be nice, but that would mean Jeannie sells the team to somebody who knows how to run a basketball team, getting rid of Rob, obviously, getting rid of all the buses at this point.
And the thing is, you can't start from scratch because we don't even own our first pick next year in a really, or what's expected to be a much better draft. Really good draft. That's the depressing part. You can't tank. We can't tank. So we have to play well. We have to play.
Well, even if you tank,
you can't tank.
Even if you did tank, are they going to pick the right guy, or are they going to pick what the tabloid people say, like they did with Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball
and JHS?
Well, I don't know if he was a tabloid.
Well,
player.
Picking up whatever Big 12 tabloid that Rob was working on. So, because I was told, and looking at it from our chat, that Rob loves those Big 10 guys. So,
who's the last really good Big 10 player?
It's a good question. Thinking about it.
Anyone?
I can't say Poole. Good question.
Draymond?
Good question. Draymond Green, you could. Well, where you're going to see if he can play. Indiana, 7-footer.
Where might be there at 17 if they keep the pick.
He might be able to stretch it out.
He's still a project, though, folks. He's going to need 2-3 years to develop.
Yeah. You're not going to get Derek Lively out of it. Not right away, anyways, I should say. Triple J. Oh, he's in the Big Ten now. The UCLA's in the Big Ten now.
He's probably talking about the Triple J from Jared Jackson.
Oh, okay.
Jared Jackson, where did he go? Yeah, actually, I don't.
Yeah, Michigan State. You're right.
Yeah. Good call. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there you go, Eric. Yeah, yep.
Good work.
That's another team you got to worry about coming up from the Lakers, because Memphis will have everybody healthy. Nobody talks about them coming up and making a big charge up the Western Conference. So if they rise up, if Houston continues its progression upwards, Golden State finds some of its mojo back. There's got to be some teams sliding down that list.
Golden State, the only way Golden State starts to get back to their mojo is if they already screwed up signing Draymond and they got to let go of Clay. But I don't know if that's going to happen. They should have started over after.
Yeah, but would the Lakers get suckered into getting him? Or signing him at a high rate?
Clay?
Yeah.
No. No way.
Okay.
How? Clay's going to want 20, 30 mil. He's not going to take the MLE.
So you're pretty sure that's going to end tomorrow? As far as
I'm pretty
game?
positive, yeah. I thought I had a pretty good feeling that the Celtics weren't going to sweep. I think the Celtics wanted to win at home.
Oh, there you go.
However, if Dallas does win, that wrench is going to get really tight on the bolt, because now Dallas goes back home with momentum, and if they win Game 6, I don't think Boston wins Game 7 even at home. I think they'd be so tight, and Dallas would be loose with the momentum. But I just don't. I don't know. My eyes don't see. My mind doesn't see the Celtics losing tomorrow. I've been wrong before, but this is just. It was so obvious they wanted to win at home.
Well, statistically, the Mavs have no chance. So maybe they'll rewrite history. We'll see. But I would agree with you, Joe. On that
It
one.
certainly would help in dealing with what we're dealing with the Lakers right now. If that were to happen, the hardest part about this season is the Celtics winning tomorrow. That's the hard part because it undoes what we thought was undone or done, I should say. We caught up. How long? When was the last time the Lakers were tied for the most titles in the NBA? I believe it was. So the Celtics won in 1957, 59, 60, 60, 57, 59, 60, 61, 62, 1963.
So Lakers Nation, you're saying Tatum sucks, and mind you, he has had a lot of problems in the playoffs, and you're right. He's been clearly outplayed by Brown. But would you really, if you had the chance, draft Ball once again
Guys,
over Tatum?
you're killing me here.
Or or would you, got to get De'Aaron Fox instead, or Lowry Markkanen? I think Tatum would be still the guy I would pick in that draft, number one.
Tatum, number one.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown, number one.
Bam Adebayo was in that draft too. That was a really good draft.
When you redo that draft, you
Donovan Mitchell. That was a really good draft, 2017. That's such an underrated draft. Malik Monk. I mentioned Lowry Markkanen. Really, really good draft. That was, yeah. Had Kyle Kuzma, of course. Josh Hart. Yeah. Really good draft. OG Anunoby. Jared Allen.
You're talking about the 2017.
Yep.
So let's look at that.
It's a really good draft, Joe.
Let's see here.
Again, I'll mention some of the marquee players in that. Markel Fultz, by the way, was the.
So the first two picks in that draft were absolute disasters. And then you have Tatum, Josh Jackson,
De'Aaron Fox,
Markkanen.
Malik Monk's in there.
I always remember this is another reason why LeBron doesn't know shit about basketball outside what he does. He kept yapping about Dennis Smith Jr. the whole time. I remember.
He's barely been able to stay in the league.
Exactly. Malik Monk, Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo.
Luke Kennard was drafted ahead of Donovan Mitchell and Bam Adebayo.
Jared Allen, OG Anunoby, Kuzma, Derek White. Wow. Josh Hart. That was a really good draft.
Yep.
Holy
Derek
crap.
White. Yep.
Hartenstein in the second round. Wow.
Thomas Bryant. He stayed in the he's Monty Morris. He's been a quality player. Dylan Brooks, second rounder as well.
Luke Kennard. Yeah, that's a pretty good draft.
Yeah, it's a pretty good draft.
So, anyways.
That's a good question, Darren. Who are the sellers this summer?
I'm going to say, predicting this week, the Lakers are likely going to hire their coach this week because the finals are going to be done regardless. And it's probably, unless there's a surprise out of nowhere, it's likely going to be JJ Redick.
Oscar asking a good question. Draft according to need or BPA? Well, the Lakers have a lot of needs. So we need a center to go alongside AD. Always having a good 3-and-D forward would be great. And guard play is something we lack after Russell and Reeves. So I guess BPA would be where I'd go.
Always BPA in the NBA.
Yeah.
You never, ever not pick the best player available.
It comes and bites you more times than not.
Yeah, just ask Portland.
Yep. Agreed. Just ask Philadelphia and the Lakers on the 2017 draft. Think how much better they'd be. Yeah, Tatum, again, you could criticize him in the playoffs, but how many years has he played in the playoffs? How, at what level has he played at during the course of the regular seasons? De'Aaron Fox, all those guys were available. Larry Markkinen, like I said before, Bam Adebayo, Donovan Mitchell, all those guys were available in that draft when the Lakers picked.
So Tatum is not good at the playoffs. Is that the word around the campfire?
Depends on who you talk to, but he's not, obviously this finals, he's not been very good at all. And they haven't needed him though.
So he's been in 112 playoff games and he's averaging 24 points, 8 rebounds, and almost 5 assists a game.
What is the shooting percentage?
Not good.
See, that's where I think people go ahead and point to when they say about that.
Yeah, not good.
Lakers Nation says he wants Alex Sarr. Sarr's a good player. I don't think he'll ever be a star. I think if he's on the right team, he can really be a good high-end rotation player, or even like a 3 or a 4, maybe even a 2. I don't know, that kind of pushing it, but I think he could be a really good complementary player on a team, which is sad to say for a guy that's being bandied about at number 1, but that just tells you how bad this draft is.
Sarr's comp was Harrison Barnes. That's how bad the draft is this year.
Yeah. Oh, Sarr saying Wenyen Gabriel. Well, if that's the case, then he'll be out of the league after bouncing back
Fox,
17s.
I don't know what you're eating or smoking, but you got to wake up or stop doing it.
I wish you would have watched that game Magic and I did, as far as when they were playing against the G League Ignite. Maybe that would change your mind. But Oscar's asking is, who are our top choices for the Lakers coach, since JJ Redick is not?
I wanted Jay Wright.
He wanted Jay Wright.
And I would have taken Hurley if he was calling the shots.
Mine has been Rondo, just to let everyone know. Mine has been Rondo, but I understand with all of the legal stuff that's been out there. And I understand Joe's sentiment that he would be too tough on the players and he would get himself in a lot of trouble because of his animated, just the fact that he gets himself in a lot of trouble, as a player. I could understand that, but I think as far as knowledge-wise, X's and O's, he was leading those huddles with the Lakers. LeBron respected Rondo in those huddles. In fact, I was watching a highlight the other day. Remember when he hit the winning shot against Boston in Boston the year before they won the World Championship? So I just think that Rondo, if he's ever given the opportunity, will become a good head coach. I just don't think the Lakers will give it to him. I don't think he is anymore. I think he's not on the roster right now. Pale, I think he was waived earlier this season. Svi Mihajlovic is on the roster for the for the Celtics. So just to give you that idea on that. So I'll check just to make sure.
Svi.
Yeah, Svi.
That guy couldn't hit an open shot if it had to save his mother, man. Jeez, that guy was terrible.
Well, he's shooting 40% for them.
When?
This year?
What, for in one attempt per game?
Well, that's... Yeah. Well, he's hitting 39% for them. Sorry.
Oh, man, that's funny.
He's scoring. He's
Ryan Kelly. I remember Ryan Kelly and Svi, two of the biggest just dildos, couldn't hit an open shot ever. Yeah,
Pale, Wenyen Gabriel is not on the team at this point in time. So yeah, he was waived earlier in the year.
By the way, I'm at basketball wise. They're great. I'm sure they're great people. Ryan Kelly, I believe, is married to Bill Cowher's daughter.
Yep. I remember we were talking about that a long time ago. Yep. You say Sam Cassell could never be a head coach. Why do you say that?
He's got Darvin Hamlin all over him. You don't become a. He's like a 5-year NBA. I'm sorry, 5-year college player. Too long being an assistant. Liked him as a player, but he's not a head coach. No one will listen to Sam Cassell.
He's been an assistant coach for quite a spell in the league.
Yeah,
do you see Darvin Ham in him?
Yeah, being an assistant that long means that's bad. It's bad. You be an assistant for 4 or 5 years and then get a head coaching job, then I think that's a pretty good space. But when you're been a head coach, how long has it been? 14 years that he's been an assistant?
Yep.
Yeah, too long. That's way too long.
Yep.
Who's Juan Howard, Mark? Please don't tell me Juwan Howard.
We're talking about Howard in Orlando. A recent draft choice.
Juwan Howard, no Juwan Howard, please.
Yeah, he was Wendy Gabriel. He played 5 games for Memphis earlier this year. Boston, he was on their training camp roster, but was waived before. That's why when you see him, he has the Celtics jersey on, even though he never actually played a game for them.
So what's Charles Barkley going to do when he retires next year?
Do you believe he's going to actually do that?
Of course he's not. What are you, nuts?
Even if they don't get
what does he get paid? $10 million a year to do his shindig? $12 million?
Something like that.
Yeah, he's not gonna. No, he ain't gonna get that doing a podcast, is he?
Well, he already does one with Ernie. JSJ says, "Would you get a retread? Rather get a retread than JJ?" i.e. Borrego, Atkinson.
I'd rather not think about it.
It's just that these choices are so unappealing to
the choices all below ass, guys. I can't get excited for anyone right now unless there's a major surprise, which Dan Hurley was a major surprise. It was good outside the box, but they blue balled themselves.
There you go.
I could battle with Chuck. I have a pretty good feeling I'd have fun with Chuck.
That's terrible.
He'd crack on me probably because I never played in the NBA, and I'd crack on him for not being able to pronounce certain words, throwing a midget through a plate glass window, things like that.
That would be entertaining to say the least. But I'm looking forward to the draft.
Midget, it was a short guy.
Okay, so here's the deal, everyone, on the NBA draft. If you don't know already, it's coming up here in just 10 days. It's going to be on prime time on Wednesday, but on the 27th, everyone, get this, Joe. If you don't look at it carefully, you don't realize it's coming up in the afternoon on Thursday for the second round. My question is, why do you do that? Why is it?
I don't. I monitor the draft, and then when I know the Lakers are going to pick soon, then I click on. It's only 2 rounds. It's not the NFL where
I understand. So they're doing the second round on the next day in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, they're trying to do what the NFL does, except their execution of it is not good.
No.
They should just do it in one day. I don't understand what the point is. 2 rounds.
I mean, even when the second round goes on, we don't even notice it. I mean, they're busy interviewing, whatnot. The picks just seem to go bing, 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 bing.
What am I going to do? Sit and listen to Jay Billis after every pick beyond the 9th pick overall say the same thing over and over again. Oh, he's good. He's a project, but he's good. Everybody's good and everybody's a project after the 9th pick, according to Jay Billis. So now what? I know you're not supposed to say negative things on there. It's kind of messed up, but I'd like to get a little more creative.
Well, regardless of what happens tomorrow, I'll have the playback on, and I will stop by for a little while to go ahead and chit-chat with you. I'm hoping Joe will be there at some point in time during the course of the game to chit-chat with you as well on playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break. Oscar says the news on Jay Wright being on the Lakers radar has cooled. Is it because he hasn't coached for 2 years, or is it Joe because he just isn't interested after, especially after what happened?
It was bullcrap.
Yeah,
someone just pulled it out of their rear end.
The stealth candidate, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, I don't even know what the hell that means.
Yeah, it was a catchword.
People making up words to get clicks on their useless page, and more useless people clamoring to it. It's just stupid.
Pale Fox, it says, if we trade this year's pick for someone's next year's pick, can we use Andre? No one wants to trade their pick next year in a much better draft than this year. Number 7. Okay, let me put it this way. Hey, Joe. Okay, so let's say you call me and you want or I call you and I want to give you the number 17 pick for a pick next year. What do you think would equate it as far as the equal value in a projected much better draft next year?
Second round pick.
Second round pick?
I do a late first if you give me something.
I'd say a late first, like a 28, 29, 30. Would you say that's like that? Would that be?
Sure. But why would you do that trade? You'd have to collect something.
Yeah.
What would the other team want? They want something, right?
Yeah.
So what would the Lakers give them? Jared Vanderbilt? Gabe Vincent? Jalen Hood-Schifino? Rui? They do for Anthony Davis. Yeah. Oh, man. I have no feeling for what's going on right now. I have nothing. It's just I'm gonna wait and watch and commentate from it. And listening to some of these Lakers shows is comical at how clueless people are. They have no idea what the hell they're talking about. They just get on and yep with no information. They don't watch anything. They don't look at anything. They watch Chuck and Shaq and Stephen A. Smith and think they know what's going on.
JSJ
said they'll watch Shams or Woj yapping all day.
Okay. But right now, we will go ahead and start to close it on out here. It is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. Hopefully, we'll try to do a show tomorrow after the game, whatever that result may be. Even if it is misery, I know you guys are going to be all pissed off and really angry if the Celtics do win. Joe, I think we should be here as a way for people to vent out that frustration if that happens. I know we will not be in the best of moods, but I think we should do it anyways. So any last thoughts, my friend, before we head on out?
No.
I think we got some good mileage out of that one. Thank you, Laker Tom.
Yeah, I think the inevitable is coming tomorrow, and the Lakers have themselves to blame.
Kind of disappointing if that's the case, but then
Lakers should have had at least one more title before this happened.
Sports Baby says if the Lakers sign JJ and draft Bronny, Joe is going to turn into a sin blade and start killing people.
Well, JJ, I'm not going anywhere. There's no choice at this point. It's likely going to be him. That was always the choice. Likely that was going to happen. Bronny goes anywhere near the Lakers, I'm not watching the Lakers this year because that is
even at 55.
That is foolproof. Yes, that is full proof that they're not interested in winning championships. They're interested in putting this dog and pony show for that schmuck so that we have to sit there and watch him prance around with his kid.
Okay.
I'm not doing it. I'm done with it. You saw how AD reacted to the whole 40,000 point thing and all these. This guy's not interested in winning championships. He's interested in LeBron James. And if you're interested in LeBron James not winning championships, then I'm not interested in watching you.
If they draft him at number 17, we are both getting up and walking out on the channel live.
Yeah. That's not going to happen, though.
We'll leave Sean to run the show.
He might quit, too. Give it back to Laker Tom.
God help us all.
He'll probably anoint Bronny the starter in the All-Star game.
Yep. Greatest player of all time. Future legacy player. Just along with the future legacy coach. I'm just like,
the beautiful thing is there are other subjects we can discuss. I know most of our people here like the Lakers, and we love the Lakers, and I'll always love the Lakers. But
I was hoping to bring on the Legend 350 today, but he just couldn't do it because of his schedule. I really would have liked to hear your thoughts on trade targets.
Well, that's always a hard thing for people in business, usually, too. Yeah. Showing up. Sinatra said 90% of it is showing up. And when you show up, good things happen usually.
Sure. Again, I'm hoping to reconnect with him maybe later this week. Love to hear his thoughts because he does stuff on the Atlanta Hawks. So especially with the number 1 pick, where they want to go ahead and do that.
Dodgers got a crappy day today. They
I know.
Lost bets with a broken hand, and then
had to put
Yamamoto has a strained shoulder.
Put him on the 15-day, correct? 15 days?
Yeah. But, in a weird way, I'm actually – poor guy, man. I know he's playing baseball, but my God, I think he's going to get a little bit of a mental rest from playing shortstop. The Dodgers need to get a shortstop. They really need to get a shortstop.
Betts is out that's a 6-week injury because he's not getting surgery.
Broken hand. I was fully healed in 6 weeks.
Okay.
I still
so
played.
He'll be back for the playoffs.
I still played. I wrapped my left hand. It was my left hand that broke. Okay. I wrapped it in a cushion. I was the center. I was playing center in high school.
His numbers were dropping in recent weeks, anyways.
He was kind of coming back a little bit, but yeah, the shortstop was draining him. It was draining him.
Put him at DH when he comes back?
No one's going DH other than Shohei.
Okay. Hernandez deal, though, getting Hernandez, I still think is probably the best move the Dodgers made.
Well, they've always been good at getting those one-year wonder guys. They did that with Trey. They did that with Manny. They've always been good at getting those one-year guys that contribute, and of course they all get big contracts because they perform. The Dodgers really need one more pitcher, starter, and Clayton Kershaw is not the answer, unfortunately. They need one more starter. I think their bullpen is great right now with Trinan and Phillips, and Vessia's getting back to form. They just need, I think, one more pitcher, and they got to get one more power, one more bat, one more consistent bat, and hopefully a shortstop. Because they're going to get Muncy back, even though he's been injured for a while. They'll get him back. He'll help. And then they can make a stretch run here. However,
Mr. Z, that would be New Orleans. New Orleans owns next year's pick. They've already, remember, they had, if you remember a couple weeks ago, beginning of the month, they had until June the 1st to decide whether or not they're taking this year's pick or next year's pick away from the Lakers. And they chose next year, which is very smart. I will say, though, before we head on out, I want to give a big shout out to a newer subscriber who, Joe, and you and I had that talk about professional wrestling the other day. Freddie said as soon as he heard wrestling talk, he subscribed. So thank you so much for subscribing.
That's the thing, guys, is we got more in our repertoire. If the Lakers want to continue to suck ass, there's other options. But as terribly run as the Lakers have been, I just don't see them. I don't see them doing it.
Not with who's running it right now, that's for sure.
They can't afford to do it. If they do that, they are a laughing stock times 10 at that point. This team is desperate for talent. You spend it on someone who's not talented, you are stupid. So maybe I'm still holding out hope for humanity a little bit by thinking they won't do it. Or maybe I'm talking myself into thinking they're not going to do it. But seriously, you bring in a non-NBA playing player for a show, you need to go. You need to go and run a lemonade stand, not an NBA basketball team. Sorry. Go away. Go away. You suck ass. And it's not just one thing. This has been going on for a while. The Lakers just lost a true great, a legend, and those words get thrown on for anybody. But Jerry West is not anybody. Jerry West is a legend, and he is great. He was great. He was the personification of greatness. And you still couldn't put away your BS aside and honor that man. You have to send out some AI script. BS. That's who you guys are. Gary Vitti even came out. The great trainer, Gary Vitti. I would trust that guy over anybody in the Laker organization. That guy's been through it all. That guy retired after Kobe retired. Everybody retired after Kobe retired. You notice Jack Nicholson didn't come to games as much. Gary Vitti retired. I have friends of mine that really don't watch the Lakers anymore. And of course, as soon as they heard LeBron came, they're like, oh, forget this. Like, what do you mean forget it? We're getting LeBron James. He won a championship. LeBron James.
We'll wait and see, sports baby, if and where Bronny gets drafted and how that's going to work out with LeBron. I don't know. But again, if he goes anywhere else, I know that Eli, one of the Suns fans that comes to join us, he always loves to kid us that Bronny's going to be drafted by the Suns and that the Suns will pick up LeBron on the cheap later on. I'm just like, okay, he's going to pass up tens of millions of dollars just to play with his son.
Who?
Eli, one of the guys in our chat that comes in here. He's the Suns fans. He comes in here periodically ever since we, when Sean befriended the Suns guys, he got alerted to us, and he comes in here and he tries to indicate that Bronny, who has worked out with the Suns, it's going to be drafted by the Suns specifically to get LeBron into Phoenix to sign for the minimum. Because that's all they can sign him for. It's the minimum. I think that says it all.
That was your cue to end this show with something as useless and worthless as LeBron taking a minimum to go to Phoenix.
I agree with you. Why would the Suns do it? Well, if you could get LeBron on the minimum, that's Eric. That's why they could do it, but they can't. LeBron is not going to turn down that amount of cash the Lakers could offer him. He might go to Philadelphia. There's a slight chance for that, but Philadelphia can offer him $50 million plus this offseason, but not the Suns. And on that note, It is the Lakers Fast Break. Joe Soro, again, make sure you support him today at Simblades, simbladeswithY.com. And of course, he is Ox1947 at LakersBall.com. True Taylor says zero a Dodgers fan or anything with them, just my baseball observation. Okay. Not a baseball fan. I don't think True Teller is a Dodgers fan or a baseball fan. Or at least a Dodgers fan. He's not a Dodgers fan. But it is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this thing. I will have playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break turned on tomorrow for whatever the result may be. And then, of course, tomorrow night, we may have to go miserate together once again after the game and talk about what's next for the Lakers. And hopefully Lakers can steal the thunder from the Celtics and announce the hiring of a new coach.
There is
JJ Redick.
There is no stealing the thunder. Boston wins a championship. Nothing thwarts that. Thwarts.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You're probably right. At least not JJ Redick, that's for sure. But maybe he'll announce it on TV because he is going to be on TV tomorrow. We'll find out. Like you said, hopefully the Lakers will get that situation with the head coach wrapped up this week, and we'll go from there. We'll see what happens. And, of course, with the draft coming up.
I hope you're right, sports baby. I really am. Because buttholes are going to get tight if that happens in Boston.
And we'll see what happens. But again, it is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate you stopping on by. And please make sure you like the show on the way out. And make sure you subscribe. Subscribe today to get the latest notification when we go live once again on playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break. And, of course, right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast. Happy Father's Day, everyone. Be safe.